Then, one day, I heard about the game. Part 1. The Game. Chapter 1. Growing up, I thought Calico Springs was the only place on Earth. As far as I was concerned, human beings crawled out of the muck at the Ripley County Bridge and only built civilization as far as the overpass to Highway 19. I knew other places existed, but why bother with shit that doesn't affect you? Our world was only 2 miles wide. We could touch every corner in an afternoon. Me and Bones used to ride end to end, knocking on random doors, trying to memorize who lived in every house. Dad called us town historians. 15 Poplar, where Miss Wilson said a prayer that made her kids disappear. 22 Willow, the creepy old house they tried to turn into a fun zone until they realized it was haunted. And of course, Old Town, the remains of what used to be the city center, still sitting by the river in all its burnt-out, decrepit glory. I slow-coasted past it on my bike, letting the downhill slope carry me to the river. It was almost night, and all around me cicadas screamed and razor-thin blades of grass reached out of the ditch, perfectly still in the simmering heat. Southern Missouri summers are perpetually sticky. You just get used to it. You use bug repellent, then you become it. And there were a lot of bugs, a shit ton of them, swarming like an army of the dead, marching up from the water. My life to this point had been defined by 2 enormous forces: God and the current river. May was its highest month, after northern snow melted and gathered steam as it rushed hundreds of miles downstream. In late fall, when the water was low, you could camp all the way down in the basin. But days like today, when you got this close, you had to watch your step to make sure you weren't already underwater. Half of Calico Springs still lived within a mile of the water, and we'd have drowned every year, if not for the sheer strength of our resolve to live there. We built barricades, massive operations that had to constantly be repaired and reformed. We bought trucks with elevated lift gates that could handle high water, and built houses on stilts for when the basin flooded out. It was a war that had raged for centuries, the river versus the town. Unstoppable force, immovable object. Dad always said it was because for people here, the only thing worse than living in Calico Springs was living anywhere else. I dropped my bike and wiped the cracked screen of my phone. It showed a map, mostly cold and colorless, except for a bright blue dot in the center, blinking like a beacon. I compared it to where I was standing. The dot was 50 feet ahead, clinging to the side of the only road that crossed the map's central feature. It was on the bridge. There were only 4 steel bridges left in Missouri, and if you asked anybody in Calico, they'd tell you this one still wasn't finished. Massive as it was, long as it had lasted, it had the feeling of being unstable, like at any minute a screw could come loose and send the whole thing the way of the Titanic. The steel beams were all different colors, the result of 100 years of disjointed construction. We all knew the no pedestrians sign was there for liability reasons. There was plenty of room on the shoulder to walk, so long as you kept your head up. I followed the blue dot out to the center of the bridge and stopped when the marker for my location lined up with it. I was in the exact middle. I could tell because directly below me was the central truss. I spent a few minutes waiting, but best I could tell there wasn't anything to discover, other than the sun fading as it set over the river. I was about to give up when I noticed the small concrete island below me, a construction platform where the truss met the water. I checked my phone. Technically, the platform was on the blue dot, too, but there was no way to get to it unless you had a... I froze as I looked back to the shore. Below the bridge on the Calico side, tied off as if it was left on purpose, there was a small rowboat waiting for me. I first heard about the game at work. I only got the job in the first place because Bones started baseball back in February, which meant I suddenly had a shitload of free time, and I'd outgrown all my old...